On that trip, 3 people basically came close to death or died and came back. One was Doug Powers, the other one was Alan Nicholson, go away, and then myself, in different circumstances. But this was a very traumatic journey.
I think this was 1978 or 9. I went on two tours of Asia with Shifu. These tours were lots of fun. They were, you came back from these tours and you were a different person. You're lean and energetic, and it was like training for a thoroughbred horse race or something, or a triathlon. You went like a fat blob and you came back like a Olympic athlete, both in your cultivation, your body was just so full of energy and light. So it was nice to be able to spend that kind of intimate time with Shifu. And it wasn't easy. It was a lot of hard work, because you were always on the move. You had to make sure, all the people in the delegation were in the right place at the right time. The lecture hall was set up properly for him. Take care of all the little details. So in terms of practice and cultivation during these times, Shifu said, you have to be really extra special careful about this time when you're traveling with me, because it's a different part of the world. People have different ideas about who we are. This is kind of revolutionary. We're going to places where people have been practicing the kind of Buddhism that they practice, and we're going to go tell them that's not quite right. That's cultural religion, it's not Buddhism. His whole mission in this worldly body was to bring alive the proper Dharma, and in part of the bringing this forth, you have to expose the improper Dharma. Many times he would, from the high seat, he would always say, you have to follow the 5 precepts, you can't drink. Oftentimes there would be Sangha that would be smoking and drinking, and it was just very common. For example, in Thailand, they take Buddhism very seriously, but on the other hand, it's it's like a job. You have to become a monk for 2 years instead of going into the military for the boys. Learn their ceremonies, and they'd all go out for a smoke break, and yet this was Buddhism in Thailand. So Shifu would never scold people unless it was on the high seat. From the high seat, he could explain proper Dharma, but if somebody was not following the rules when he was not on the high seat, he wouldn't say anything. And I think that's the way he taught us all. There was a time to study the Dharma, and it was always proper Dharma, and then you put it into practice or you didn't. If people didn't follow all the rules, then that was their karma. They're just delaying their own awakening. Lots of the host would provide us with attendants and drivers and people to take us around and take care of all the little business things, and they wouldn't follow the rules. And I several times pointed this out to Shifu, and he said, you can't say anything to these people. They're our hosts, and they're doing what they think is the right thing, and we can just talk about the Dharma when we lecture the Dharma, and the rest of the time we're their guests, and You can't be telling our guests that they're going to hell or whatever. So you have to, there's a time for proper Dharma, and there's a time for learning proper Dharma. And it's not for other people to judge us, and it's not for us to judge other people. If other people are not following the rules, that's their problem. It's not our problem. So on tour in Malaysia, Shifu said many people will be testing us. This is a test. When we go to these foreign countries, not only are we propagating the proper Dharma, and this is our test for them, they're going to be testing us with the Dharmas that they have. So we all have to be very careful, and one good way to do this is to invoke the aid of our Dharma protectors, and to do that you need to recite mantras and recite the name of the Buddha. So one very powerful mantra is, it's called the heart of the Shurangama Mantra. And it's not very long, it's pretty easy to memorize, it's only a few lines. So he said, if everybody in my entourage here recites that, then that will help reduce accidents and calamities, and especially before you eat or drink anything. Don't drink any tea without doing this. So one time he said, okay, we're going over to so-and-so's temple. He's invited us to come and have tea with him. It's okay if you drink the tea, but make sure you recite this mantra before you go. I don't know what happened, but because I'm so dense, I forgot to recite the mantra. And so when we got back to where we were staying, the temple we were staying at, I felt unusually tired. And so I went to sleep, and the next morning it was time to get up. I couldn't move. I couldn't wake up. I could hear things. I had awareness, but I couldn't move. And people tried to wake me up. I was just like a dead log. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't open my eyes. And so somebody went and got Master Hua, brought him in. He said, "Oh, he's got the goo poisoning. He didn't do his mantra last night before we drank this tea." And so he recited some mantras, did some dharmas, and he had his cane then, and he beat me with his cane. And as he beat me with his cane, I could feel this black, sticky, gooey chi moving out the bottom of my feet. And as soon as he did that, I could open my eyes and talk. And, if he hadn't have been there, I probably would have died. I couldn't eat. It was kind of scary. So that was in Malaysia. And I hear that in a lot of those Southeast Asian countries that there's a black magic is practiced quite a bit. So I hope you'll all be very careful if you're traveling there. And the more the more light we generate with our practice, the more darkness wants to put out that light. Generating that light, we're practicing the Buddha Dharma, which is just being mindful of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in many different ways. So wherever you are traveling in the world, always be mindful of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and not only will that improve your cultivation and understanding and awareness, self-awareness, it will also protect you when strange things happen. So that is a little bit about my trip to Malaysia with Master Hua.
我今天先要提出来，俺们所需要研究的一部经典。这一部经典就是佛教的一个照妖镜，佛教一个降魔杵，佛教一个斩魔剑什么经呢？就是楞严经。这个楞严经啊，是开智慧的楞严，但是这一部经现在受到世界各国的人的歧视，受到各国学者的歧视怎么样说呢？他们都说这一部经是假的，不是真的为什么他们要说这一部经是假的？俺们还要研究这一部经呢？这个有它的价值，有它的值得研究的地方。这一部经就是说出来所有旁门外道这种邪知邪见，这种不合乎佛法的这种知见，都给他们说得清清楚楚。所以说这一部经就是照妖宝镜，就是降魔杵，就是斩魔剑。那么俺们把这一部经人人都明白了，所以天魔外道自然就都没有了，这个世界战争也会平息了所有一切人类都再得到安宁了。所以这一部经是最要紧的。但是你们应该知道这个是不容易的因为现在所有的小者他自己的毛病不会去他又想要有隐喻嘛，又想要成佛又想要抽烟喝酒嘛他又想要要在佛教里做一个有地位的人。所以呢这个一些个学者现在对出家人很看不起的，说是出家人都没有什么知识。这是我所经验的在这个越南或者不会有这样的情形，在美国这个情形可多得很这个普菲萨也懂得佛法了，那个普菲萨也开了悟了。究竟我曾经问过他们，我说你们开的是什么悟？是不是一个牛悟？是不是一个狗悟你们开畜生悟了我这么骂他们。那么这样的他们也没有话讲这个所以俺们应该研究楞严经大家共同努力把这个楞严经研究明白了这是最要紧的。为什么要研究楞严经？楞严经在末法的时候它最先末楞严经这一部经最先没有了怎么样没有的？就是被这些个小者批评连出家人都不相信了，说人家某某教授都说他是假的嘛我们还学他干什么完了没有了。这是头一个没有的。所以头一个没有的，我们出家人我们佛教徒一定保护他，不叫他没有。我们有一天楞严经妖魔鬼怪就都藏起来这个楞严经没有了，那些天魔外道就都出现了。所以这一点每一个人应该要知道的。在中国里有一个智者大师，他一生就听见楞严经这个名字，就向印度拜了18年，希望见这一部经，但是始终他没有见着。所以这个事情也是他一生的很遗憾的一件事。那么俺们现在遇到这一部经，俺们应该令这个经大放光明，照耀法界。
这个呢，咱们所有的人在这个世间上千奇百怪什么事情都有所谓天地之大，四海之广，无奇不有。可是总括起来，俺们人呢要存一种正心 正心修身，齐家治国平天下。咱们心正了，他什么旁门外道不会有办法的。你所以被人呢落杠头，这种情形就是你心里先不正当了，先不正当才能把这个被这个邪来扰乱。你要是心正所谓邪不胜正，他什么杠头也没有什么灵验的。尤其我方才提议你们各位研究楞严经，读诵楞严咒，你们要能会诵楞严咒，这什么杠头也都没有功效了，都会没有用的。那个楞严咒就是能破一切魔的罗网，能破一切旁门外道的这种法术，那个其中那个力量是不可思议的。如果你们想不受这个杠头的所扰乱，就读诵楞严咒。这个楞严咒是我方才不讲过了，你谁读能诚心的读诵，就有84000金刚藏菩萨来拥护你。